if you're able to tell a good story or you're captivating, what that does for your life is unbelievable. We always learn through stories, we always bonded through stories. So like learn all these essential skills that a lot of people never are taught, never think about. And always be taking notes, always be around those kind of people. Try to be like those kinds of people. You're going to get much more than just reading a book. I think all those books are great. They're essential. Definitely read them, but just watching someone and then doing it, that's much better.
So by your own admission, I believe you went into university with the intention of working in like being what we call a commentator, like a sports announcer or like a TV presenter type, sports center or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And you found that, you perhaps you were nervous or this was not at that time for you, that was not, going to be a good career option. But you've really like, now you wouldn't know that, right? Now you come across as like very persuasive, very charismatic. So what I'm getting at is that you weren't always like that, but you've managed to get yourself like that. So like training, if you started off kind of skinny fat and then you're not like that anymore, it's the same way. So you've kind of worked on the mental side in conjunction with working on the physical side.
Yeah.
So could you kind of talk us through some of the ways in which you've found to improve your confidence, your charisma, your persuasive abilities and all that, writing skills, communication, all those sorts of things?
Yeah, and then those are all essential life skills. And so the first thing is you have to believe you can do it, because everyone goes to the gym and believes, okay, I can lose 10 pounds, I can improve, my weight on this. First day I squat the bar. You don't think you're going to squat the bar forever. Eventually, okay, I can put a plate on, 2 plates, whatever. That when you start a business or you start working somewhere, you're pretty sure I'll be able to make more money a year or two down the road. But for some people, for some reason, people have this self-limiting belief or this false narrative that, oh, that's the way I always was. That's how my family is. I'll never be able to improve that. Or they don't even think to improve that. Like I was always quiet, always shy. I'm not the life of the party, whatever. But you can improve anything. You just need to be proactive about it and, really take charge and make it a priority. So that was what I did when I moved across the country, 3,000 miles away. I was like, all right, I got to do all these things. I got to work on all this stuff. I want to eradicate some of those self-limiting beliefs and false narratives and become more charismatic, learn how to communicate better. So I took improv classes. I took stand-up classes. Toastmasters is a great thing to do. The more you can speak, and then just put the onus on yourself every day of like, okay, how could I push this more? Because if you can't communicate effectively and you can't be a persuasive, charismatic person, like, man, your life is going to just be like here when it could be here. Like you're just cutting yourself off at the knees with the potential you have to grow, not only your business, but just everything, your relationships, your network, and just how much you get out of life and you enjoy life. So, you got to do those things. You got to push yourself out of your comfort zone. I always tell people like, hey, if you're like that, do all the things I just mentioned. Go on meetup.com and go to things like anytime you're around people, you're at this the supermarket, whatever, like don't be looking at your phone, talk to the cashier, be like, hey, Bill, how's your day going? What's going on? You're in an elevator, don't be looking at the thing, talk to somebody. Like always look for opportunities to push yourself out of your comfort zone to engage. Read How to Win Friends and Influence People. There's plenty of books like that. That's obviously the classic. Read that 5 times. Implement the lessons all day, every day. Don't read it and be like, oh, one day I'm going to do that. Read 7 pages and then go out and act on those 7 pages immediately. You got to do stuff like that. And there's plenty of other books like 92 Ways to Talk to Anyone, Captivate, Fascinate, plenty of books like that. But you've always got to be working on it. Then I hired Roger Love, who's the world's greatest vocal coach. He works with Steven Tyler, Eminem, Tony Robbins, Bo Eason, all kinds of speakers, singers. So you just got to do it like you do anything else, like hire experts, push yourself out of your comfort zone. And then it gets easier. You get better at it.
So I think, 2 really important things to kind of take away from that is, as you said, the consistency, and also this idea that you can, and these are your words, but you can sort of act your way into thinking differently, right?
Yeah.
If you do these things all the time, that will eventually be part of your personality. Just like if you're anxious all the time, that will eventually be part of your personality, right?
Yeah.
But I think it's, as you said, it's really important to just even if it's not perfect, right? And you don't read. So I'd be the kind of guy, have a PhD, right? So I like reading. So I'd be the kind of guy, or I would have been the kind of guy who'd read 15 books on it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, sure. Well, that's useful, but it's only useful if you act on it, right? And it's only useful if you consistently apply what's in those books, right? There's no point, and I think a lot of people get kind of caught up, even on training and nutrition, with kind of paralysis by analysis, when in fact, often simplifying, taking, 3 to 5 key takeaways and just, applying those, but applying them consistently all of the time is actually can be more beneficial, right? Than sort of just gathering
and then just learning.
Totally.
And then just learning from people is oftentimes better than like a book. Books are great. Like I've read plenty of books, but learning from someone who's good at it, being around those kind of people. And now here's the thing. It's like, I think it's called the Zeigarnik effect or something like that. Like where you don't know something and then someone points it out to you and then all of a sudden you see it all the time.
Oh,
So
yeah.
So if you never really considered that you could get better at it, and then I say, here's the things. When you're around charismatic people, just start taking mental notes. Oh, fuck, I never noticed how he does that or how he tells a story or how he pauses it. Like all of a sudden you start making these notes all the time. Same way with training where you're like, oh, I'm supposed to squat to this step, not to this, whatever. Like you learn from watching people who are good at it. Even pull up stand up on Netflix instead of just sitting there and laughing. Like actually have a notebook. I did that and I have people that I work with do that. Like, oh, this is amazing. He does this before a punchline, or here's how he tells a story or whatever. Because if you're able to tell a good story or you're captivating, what that does for your life is unbelievable. We always learn through stories, we always bonded through stories. So like learn all these essential skills that a lot of people never are taught, never think about. And always be taking notes, always be around those kind of people. Try to be like those kinds of people. You're going to get much more than just reading a book. I think all those books are great. They're essential. Definitely read them, but just watching someone and then doing it, that's much better.
Yeah, absolutely. I think people kind of make that mistake a lot though. And don't, as you said, like you have to and do it consistently, right? And just always try to be focusing on it and not kind of just reading the book and focusing on, I think that's important. And also it's often, especially in the fitness industry, and we'll have people in the fitness industry listening, it's not the trainers who talk about moment arms and have encyclopedic knowledge of studies and knowledge of everything. It's the people who can communicate the best and get inside people's heads and actually motivate them, as you said, to to have that influence. And that's arguably more important than how much you know or how many studies you can quote or whatever it might be.
Well, look at somebody like Body by Jake. He's like 60 something now. Like he's arguably one of the most successful guys in the history of this industry. He doesn't know anything all these little science guys on Instagram are talking about. But he's made 1,000 times more money than any of us have. So
totally.
Or look at Tony Little back in the day, and he had that gazelle thing, and he was wearing those candy cane striped pants, and he was screaming. People want to knock what's her name, who's on The Biggest Loser, who says kettleball, Jillian Michaels.
Oh, yeah.
Right? But look at how successful she is. Or Tony Horton. They'll be like, oh, he doesn't know about moment arms and the latest research. Yeah, he shouldn't. He's fucking dominating all of us, So but if you listen to Tony Horton or Body by Jake, Jake Steiner tell a story, you're like, oh, fuck, talk all day. That's why,
That's great. Exactly it, though. Yeah. And most people don't care, right? The thing is, most people don't care. Yeah, especially if they're sort of business leaders in a certain area, they don't care. They just want to know, does it work? And
exactly. Well, here's a heartbreaking fact for every fitness professional listening: The Rock and Joe Rogan are considered more of an expert than you are.
Yeah,
and probably so are half the guys in the NFL that look better.
Absolutely.
So it's not just that. It's not just what you know. Know shit and be smart and don't injure your clients and get them results. But if that's all you're working on, if you're not working on your people skills and all the other things we just talked about, you ain't gonna make money. You ain't gonna be successful.
No, and I think that's really important for people to remember. And it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to, as you said, get the point across persuasively so people remember. So shifting kind of gears again to a few more kind of personal questions about you, and also I think people find it interesting, especially because you have this renegade personality. You do kind of go against the grain, and you're not so influenced by the, either the latest studies or fitness dogma or whatever it might be. So who would you say are the biggest influences, or who have been the biggest influences on you?
In fitness?
Well, yeah. So whatever arena you're interested in, but yeah, say like fitness and health.
Yeah, I
Maybe
mean,
let's start
fitness
with
and
that.
health. It would be Dorian Yates, Dante Trudell, Louis Simmons. I mean, those guys pop to mind, and then I got immersed. I got obsessed with all the old school stuff, So I love all that, like Vince
Oh, like
Gironda,
Saxon,
uh,
Hackenschmidt,
even
those.
as far back as 1906, Saxon Hackett-Schmidt, Reeves, Vince Gironda, Larry Scott. Larry Scott is the reason he was the first Mr. Olympia. For those who don't know, in 1959, he's the reason why I had rings. So now everybody has rings in their gym. I had rings in my gym in '96, and nobody on the planet had rings in their gym. It was because Larry Scott said that doing flies on rings was like one of his favorite chest exercises. And somehow dude, it took months. There was no internet. We had to find how to get rings. I think it was even 94, 95 we had them. I don't even know how we got them. And we had these rings. And so yeah, those would be some of the biggest influences. And then, like I mentioned, that book Dinosaur Training by Brooks Kubik. We had all of those strongman implements and those odd objects and everything in '96 when nobody had it. Now everybody has it, but due to that book, so that'd be a huge influence too. Dave Tate. So there's four people, and I know them personally. They're good friends of mine who have been really, really big and influential in my life that I'll be forever indebted to. They're my brothers for life. Dave Tate, Alan Cosgrove, Bedros Keuilian, and my friend who I mentioned earlier, Mark Crook. He's not in the fitness industry at all, but he was here this week and we trained. Those four guys really made the biggest impact, and like always pushed me, and gave me opportunities and helped me think bigger and to do more. So I'll be forever indebted to those four guys.
What have you so first off, is there anything you've kind of changed your mind on significantly in the last few years? And second, what advice would you give to, say, 20-year-old Jay? It can be 30-year-old Jay, could even be 40-year-old Jay, but that kind of. So let's start off with the advice first, and then we'll talk about, maybe an unpopular opinion or something you might have changed your mind on. So yeah, the advice first.
The advice, I mean, man, there'd be so many things. You could look back and you're like, man, everything about how I was approaching life, my worldview was wrong, right? Um, I always tend to go with the fact that not everyone's not judging you the way you think that they are. Like, you hold yourself back and you don't take the risk, or you don't do the things, or whatever it might be. And someone might look at my life and be like, yo, you took 1,000 risks that I would never take. But for me, looking back, I'm like, oh, I could have done this better. I could have done that better. I could have pushed myself out of my comfort zone and out of my shell more. And especially when it comes to, like, the self-confidence and the ability to communicate and leadership skills. Like, I wish I would have developed those more earlier, but it's just like, when you're younger, you think that everyone's judging you, everyone cares, and everyone's making fun of you, and everyone's like, oh, you're this, you're that. And really, no one gives a fuck. They're all in their own head thinking about themselves. I'm not good enough. I'm not this. I'm too fat. I'm too short. My voice is weird. So you're in your head about that, and you think that everyone else is judging you for that, but nobody cares. Everyone actually deep down wants you to succeed. I think we have this misconception because of haters online, and we think real world is the comment section. But twice this week I was talking to people, and they go, where are all these people? I never encounter any of those people in real
They'd
life.
never
I go,
say it to your face, right? Either. They'd
yeah,
never
but like,
think of saying
even
that. Yeah.
even all the negativity that you see on the news and the fighting on social media, it's like, if you go out in the real world, people are good people. They don't really care. They don't hate you the way the way the mainstream media would make you think. No one's judging you. And if you're with a bunch of people and you get picked on to go up on stage in front of 50,000 people at Giant Stadium or something, not everyone's going to be like, oh, I hope he fails. I hope he's terrible. They're like, oh, that would be amazing. If he did well, that would show me what's possible. That would inspire me. Even though they might not say it to you deep down, that's what they're thinking. Like, so I would just say, just get out of your own head. The only person who's really judging you is you. And, don't be scared to take those risks, and don't be scared to fail or be embarrassed. Like, that's really the main thing I think I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and again, this is quoting you again, but you're always writing your own eulogy, right? You
Yeah.
don't, you want to try these things. You might as well take the shot. You don't want to be lying there thinking, I shouldn't have tried. I should have
Yeah.
taken that shot and not taking it. And that's
Yeah.
something. And I think the other thing, you're very good at kind of taking what some people would perceive as negativity and using it in a positive way. So one of the things, for example, is you see these, Instagram influencers, right? And they don't have a clue about training. And you or I can tell, like, they don't really have a clue. Average person can't. So that goes back to what we're talking about before. And they think there's some authority because they're shredded or whatever. But to all the people in the fitness industry thinking, I know way more and all that. Well, if those people can do that well, like the sky's the limit for you, right? You shouldn't view it. You should be like, great. And you said this, like, great. I'm glad they're doing so well because my options therefore are like, functionally infinite. So I think that's really important.
And it kind of makes you think like, oh, if that person sucks and knows nothing about training and they're dominating me, well, I got to step up. I got to step up. I got no excuses, So, yeah.
There's a lot. Yeah.
I think that's also goes to kind of rewriting that false narrative or whatever about how you grew up, because you may have grown up negative, the glass is half empty, the world is full of haters, whatever. So your programming would dictate that, yeah, you're going to be negative and pissed off about this guy who has no experience, knows nothing, beating you. But nah, that's that bullshit small-minded stuff that's holding you back and keeping you small. It doesn't matter what anyone else is doing. Doesn't matter. Just look at people who are where you want to be and work on getting there. And whether they know less than you or 1,000 times less than you, it doesn't matter. Like, they're just showing you what's possible. And if they truly do suck and you're truly that great, then why the fuck are you not there? You got to step it up. And I'm speaking to myself too, because there's plenty of people that are further ahead in life than I am. And so I got to say, well, why am I not there? We all got to hold up a mirror to ourselves and be honest with ourselves. It's nobody's fault. It's not the government's fault. It's not your mom or dad's fault. It's not what happened to you when you were 3. We've all had trauma. We've all had baggage and sadness. Everyone has anxiety. Like you have a cheat sheet for anyone you meet. You know that they have stress, anger, depression, sadness, insecurities. So if you could, help that person get better. And that's the thing too, like if you're someone who's always in your own head, you got to look to be of service to other people and help other people. Like if it's just all about you, like how could I get better? How could I make more money? You're always going to be miserable. But if you're looking to serve people all day, you're going to feel so much better. I could go for a whole tangent on that too, but
it's really important stuff. Like, absolutely. Yeah. And as you said, like caring about someone else's happiness and therefore getting out of your head will actually like help you become happier.
Oh yeah.
Even without focusing on it. So I think that's an important thing that you've spoken about, but people maybe don't remember.
Yeah, because you can only work on your own stuff so much each day, and then you burn out. Like you're only physically capable, mentally capable of getting so much productive stuff done in a day, and then that's when you're like, all right, I'm fried. Let me start eating cake and drinking and defaulting to whatever, right?
Yeah.
But if you're like, okay, I did that. Now what's next? Who else needs help? And it might not necessarily be help or service in the way that people think. It's like I could just turn off my phone and be fully present for my friends or family and help them, serve them because I'm here and I'm telling jokes, I'm laughing, I'm asking about their day, whatever it might be. Like those are things that are super important that people don't think about. And that way you won't default to like eating shit or drinking or drugs or whatever your kind of default vice is.
Is there anything specifically that you've changed your mind about in the last few years? So you're very good at, you have the sort of what in academia we call intellectual humility, but like you have the ability to say, do you know what? I'm wrong. I was wrong on that. I changed my mind about that. You said like programs you wrote 5 years ago, you do a better job today. And I think that's only a positive, right? But in that vein of kind of self-improvement and of sort of being self-aware enough to know that, you can improve and you always will improve. And that's kind of an important thing in life. Is there any kind of thing kind of major, and we can pick the time frame, it could be 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, significant that you've changed your mind on, that you sort of go back and...
Oh God, I'm sure there's so many and nothing's coming to mind.
It's hard on the spot, right?
I know. There's got to be so many. Let's see if I could put something together. I mean, I probably would have thought, and I don't even know if it's going to come out right. I probably would have thought maybe 5 to 7 years ago that if you wanted to influence those close to you to change, like, so for example, not everyone ever even gets into personal development. Like I have Family members that are in their 70s or 80s, they're the exact same way they were when they're 20. They never
Yeah.
thought about, I'm going to evolve, whatever, they're old school Italian or whatever, doing the same shit, same worldview. And that's their prerogative. That's fine. Everyone that I tend to spend time with is on a mission of self-actualization and always trying to evolve and get better. Now, everyone goes at their own rate though, right? So let's say you and I grew up together or we're good friends. Maybe you started before I did, and then we don't hang out as much, or vice versa. We don't hang out as much. Now, at first, I kind of judged those people. I was like, how the fuck could you not want to evolve? Then I kind of came to the realization that it's like, hey, man, just let people do what they do. Like everyone's got to do what works for them. You can't force that on anybody.
Yeah.
Certainly, you preaching to them is not going to get them involved. So, I kind of evolved through that. And then I was like, well, you could just lead people by your actions, your non-actions, your responses, your non-responses. You no longer get sucked into gossip and arguments. You show people that. You show people how you talk. You don't say things like you used to, like, oh, it must be nice or whatever. And that, I thought that was good enough. And for a lot of people, it is. But for people that you're really close to, family members, siblings, significant other, your parents, sometimes you have to do a little bit more than that, where you're like, okay, I am showing them through my actions, but I'm still just doing me. I'm not really helping them where they actually do need the help. They need the lifeline, but it's not through preaching. It's like this weird evolution you go through, like Bruce Lee talks about when you're an amateur. A punch is just a punch, a kick is just a kick, and then you learn things, and it's like, no, it's the most complicated thing in the world. And then years later, at mastery, it's like, yeah, a punch is just a punch, a kick is just a kick. But I think you have to go through this whole thing and come full circle. And it's like, and again, I don't even know if I'm articulating what I'm feeling the way I want to, but I have noticed that maybe I was wrong about that, where these certain people need a little bit more of your help and your focus and attention, but in a really nuanced way in their love language or the way it's not enough for you to just be like, okay, I get up at 6 and I eat this and I go to the gym, so they're going to do that. Yeah, that's going to lead them a little bit, but there's also, some people just may not be as driven as you or whatever. And so there are some specific things where you have to, again, I'm not saying it the way I want to say it. I have to take time and kind of figure out exactly what I mean, but they do need you to help them a little bit more and you to lead them proactively and you to, tell them it's okay when they fall and things like that. Whereas my nature is more like, yo, we're all just fucking doing it. Let's go. You see what I'm doing? You do this shit,